Just in closing from myself, what I want to do now is just play a very brief video, and after that video, I'll be passing across to Cathal just to set out the context a bit more today. A very brief video, just a quick reflection on recap where we started from and where we are now. Thank you. Roll it there, Colette. Ladies and gentlemen, you're all very welcome to the first Citizens' Assembly on drug use here in Ireland.
Well, the main job of the members of a Citizens' Assembly is simply to learn about the issue that the Citizens' Assembly is on and to discuss aspects of that issue. And on foot of that, to carefully consider different possibilities for changing the way the world is at the minute.
Globalisation, digitalisation has transformed the drug market certainly over the last years, and we cannot assume that what works with one group or in one context or in one country will necessarily work exactly in the same way elsewhere.
People use drugs for one of two reasons. They either want to stop feeling something or they want to start feeling something. So why do we stigmatise drug users in the way that we do?
So often when we hear about drug-related harm, we hear about, the medical effects. There are other drug-related harms, and having a criminal conviction is a harm for your future development.
The actual drug use is more or less the same across society. The numbers coming into treatment with problematic drug use are far higher in the more deprived areas.
Today we see that drugs are everywhere, and almost everything with a psychoactive potential can be used as a drug.
A lot of decision making is made without the impact of the person that these decisions are impacting the most. They deal with the stigma, the shame, the criminalisation, the humanisation.
These three bad childhood experiences, wants or neglects or events, your chances of falling into addiction or depression are so much greater than they would be. So that a trauma-informed approach is incredibly important.
I don't feel sad for my story. I feel like my story is who I am, and it's what I do and how I help people.
We need to get rid of stigma. We need to see each person as a valuable human being.
And that peer-led work, support. Absolutely, it's vital, particularly within the Trafford community itself in terms of Trafford's engagement services.
It seems appalling that in a rich society today we have a proportion of society which is basically stigmatised and ignored.
This is a crisis no less than the COVID crisis.
And also we have viewed that each centre is working alone, so we need a national strategy, like envision where these centres should be built and the capacity and so on, instead of each centre working alone.
There is an issue for policymakers, for legislators, for Oireachtas, for elected members, to treat this issue with a level of urgency.
There's a huge echelon of our society that we are turning a blind eye to, and we've been doing it since forever. There shouldn't be another penny spent on a road or a street or a cycle lane in this country until we tackle the underlying issue.
So, good morning everyone. That was just a brief, if you like, recap on a reminder of where we've been so far in this process in the meeting in April and then in the most recent meeting in May down in Dublin Castle. So what I'd like to very briefly do over the next couple of minutes is just continue that recap and revisit some of the slides that I presented in the first meeting in April, because some people had asked about the process after the last meeting at the end of October and where and how quickly things move on to the Oireachtas and to government. So I'm just going to very quickly, once we load up the presentation, bring you through just bear with us, bring you through a life cycle explanation of the cycle. But what I'll say while we're waiting for the PowerPoint to load up is this weekend's session has 6 sessions you'll see in your programme. Each of the 6 sessions has kind of 3 parts: the inputs, the questions and answers, and then the roundtable discussions. And what we'll be looking at in the in the course of those roundtable discussions, you'll see each is a half-hour block. So you have 6 sessions by half an hour and then a final half an hour at the end, which will be led by your facilitators. So that 3.5 hours worth of roundtable discussions is where you will be generating and identifying options and possibilities for making an impact. But very quickly, I'm going to bring it through the slide. So this was all conceived and set off, if you like, in the Dáil and Seanad, the Parliament setting the terms of reference for the Citizens' Assembly. So we have very clearly and well identified terms of reference that then drive the work programme that was presented in draft format in the first meeting and then adopted by the Assembly subsequent to that. That work programme drives the design and the themes for each of the 6 meetings. As we said in April, it was really about setting the scene, understanding the policy context and the, if you like, the health context of drugs use. Then in May, we focused significantly on the lived experience, which again is a vital part of the terms of reference. This weekend we're focusing on strategy, policy and services. And as Paul said, we'll be turning our attention in September to issues relating to the criminal justice system and to legal issues. And the final substantive meeting in October then is focusing on prevention and education and public health questions. Finally, we synthesise all of those issues into a set of recommendations, or draft recommendations at least, that will be balloted on in October. And the final meeting, the 6th meeting at the end of October, is where we will be working to support you, the members, in designing and agreeing the ballot questions and then voting on them. So those votes that you undertake by secret ballot will become the final recommendations that will form part of the report. So between the end of October and the end of December, we will collectively, the Secretariat, as well as the advisory groups that we have in place, and you, most importantly, you, the members, will be working together to draft the final report of the Citizens' Assembly. Very quickly then, that will be submitted to the Oireachtas and also given to the government by the end of this year. And in early 2024 then, precise date to be determined, but it will be quickly then referred on to the irrelevant Oireachtas committee. And that Oireachtas committee then will take a period of time to review and debate and discuss and consider the reports and findings of this Citizens' Assembly. And after that period of time, it will report back, it will give its response to the findings and the recommendations of the Citizens' Assembly. The precise time, difficult to say, but it's as quickly as possible. As Paul said, each passing moment means the situation is deteriorating. Finally then, after the Oireachtas committee responds, the government will give a considered response as the terms of reference set out, indicating which of the recommendations it accepts, which of them it doesn't accept, and indicating a reasoned response for each of the recommendations and indicating a timeline for implementation. So that's the life cycle. Very quickly to say the roundtable discussions, you've seen this slide before. The 3 policy areas, the 3 legs of the stool as Paul describes them, on the left-hand side are legislation, policy and practice or services. We're focusing on the second 2 today. We're focusing on policy and we're focusing on service delivery. 3 questions across the top: what works, what doesn't and what could work. And your job, I think, in the roundtable discussions is to identify things that could be improved, expanded, enhanced, introduced. And that is the focus of all of your roundtable discussions this weekend. So thank you very much. I don't know if I've run over time, Paul.
No, you're okay. You're spot on. Thank you, Colin.
Excellent.
Well
thank you very much.
Bang on. Thank you. Okay, good morning. I think that just sets the scene for today's and tomorrow's deliberations. I'm one quickly.
Sorry, very quickly.
Switch it on.
Very quickly, just to say as well, there are HSE support counsellors available today, as there were at the last meeting, and the contact details are on your table for anybody who wants at any stage to avail. We have 2 on site today, Anthony and NASA, so you'll be familiar with them, some of you from the previous meeting, and I just encourage you, at any stage, if you feel you need to speak with them, please make contact with them through the number on your table. Thank you.